You know, everyone, I've talked about this before, and I've mentioned it in recent videos. A lot of people have talked about it. And I think it's too obvious, even to the human eye, whether you're a fan of the comics or you're not, that when you do a crossover like this recent crossover of Mega Man and Sonic for Worlds Unite, there's a big difference. There is a big difference between doing a crossover that makes sense, that people never thought they would see, and then there's the difference of doing a crossover, rushing it out, and in the end, and throughout it, and at the end, have it make absolutely no sense whatsoever, have it be confusing, have it be a disappointment, and in the eyes of many people, have it be nothing more than a cash cow because you want to cash in on the success of the previous one, of the original. Now, there are many examples of cashing in on something that's been a success. I think probably the most primary, if not more present example of that is the success of Disney's Frozen. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because if you would have told me this movie here, when it came out, when it was being developed and it came out, was going to be the huge hit that it became, I don't think anybody would have believed you. You know, everybody probably would have thought, oh, well, it's Disney doing an adaptation of the Snow Queen, whoop-de-doo, it's not going to be anything big. And lo and behold, it became something big. How do I know? Because quite frankly, my family, well, my family through me, if you will, my family has just about, well, not everything, but just about anything that we could get that's affordable and Frozen related. That's right. Anything affordable and Frozen related. You want a good example? You want a good example? You know those snackies that they advertise on TV? Well, Disney took advantage of that, put Frozen on them, made a deal to have a Frozen snackies, and except for maybe the Olaf one, me and my mom have just about every one. Elsa and Anna towels. I gave my sisters and my mom some Elsa and Anna towels. Infinity figures. What more can be said? I got Elsa from Amazon, and I recently got Anna from Amazon, and yes, I'll be getting Olaf. And if that's not enough, how about the fact that we got a poster that I'd like to hang up and put in a frame, but cannot? The point is, Disney, in the eyes of a lot of people, are cashing in on this huge success of Frozen. Even to the point that the recently released shorts collection that they just brought out, of all the recent shorts over the past decade, 15 years, whatever, and front and center on the cover, like this, is Anna and Elsa. Or Elsa and Anna. Smack dab on the cover as if to say, this is what it's all about. And you know why? Because Frozen Fever, which will probably be on the Cinderella Blu-ray as well, Frozen Fever is now on that Shorts Collection Blu-ray as we speak. But that's not all. I mean, if you watched Animact, you also found out there's going to be a Frozen 2. So yeah, a lot of Frozen going on. And if you don't believe me, there's mothers, parents, kids. They come into my store almost every day, and once in a while throughout the day, you'll see a parent or a kid wearing something Frozen-like. You want an even bigger example of cashing in? How about Princess Green Seedless Grapes, aka Frozen? That's right, frozen grapes. And that's not all. You have a frozen cereal. How do I know? I bought the cereal when it first came out, so I have that limited edition. So I have several boxes, empty that is, several empty boxes where it's all sparkly. The point I'm getting at is because of the success of Frozen, Disney is cashing in on any opportunity they can with this franchise. And Disney's not the only one. DreamWorks has been cashing in a lot lately now on this stuff. I mean, I walked into my store a couple of days ago just to shop, and I noticed that now we're selling DreamWorks cereals based on Madagascar, Penguins of Madagascar, Shrek, you name it. Heck, even Universal's taking advantage of it by having a Minions cereal. Marvel and Lucasfilms through Disney is taking advantage of it with an Avengers cereal. Taking advantage of the upcoming Star Wars movie with a Star Wars cereal. The point is, when something is a huge success, you always want to latch on and cash in on it even more so. Even if it might take maybe a year or two. Yeah. You see, the last time we had a crossover between Sonic and Mega Man, believe it or not, that crossover began at the end of issue 247, which, oh, by the way, was 28 issues ago. 2 years and 4 months ago was the last time that crossover occurred. Yeah, the last time. And it ended in 251. Yeah, it ended in 251. How do I know? 252 was the start of the Soft Retcon reboot. Yeah, 251 is when it ended in Sonic the Hedgehog. And that, oh, by the way, was 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been 2 years. 2013 was the last crossover. 2 years later, just about, you get another one. The only difference is it ended shorter. Why? Because you had an additional book in Sonic Boom to help quicken the pace. But when some fans look at both Sonic the Hedgehog, Worlds Collide, and the recent Worlds Unite, the one thing they'll say about Worlds Collide, like I said at the beginning, the one thing they will say is that at least it was something they never thought they would see. And yes, even though it was the game characters and not some of the comic exclusive characters from both books, at least it was something that they never thought they'd see, and it was a story that they actually enjoyed. Here, though, you got a mixed bag. I mean, I'm not going to sit back and say Worlds Collide was the greatest thing of all time. No, because everybody, including myself, had their opinions on it. And yes, it was mixed. It was very mixed, but not as mixed as this is. I mean, yes, you had your opinions that varied. like I said, there was a plane going over, I don't know what direction, but you had your opinions that varied, but not as much as this. I mean, ever since, believe it or not, this crossover was announced, some were excited, and some were like, yeah, you know, all right, I'll look into it, I'll check it out. And some were like, are you seriously kidding me? You're doing a crossover again? It's been 2 years. Now some might say 2 years is a perfect timing because sometimes when you look at movies, 2 or 3 years is perfect timing to do a sequel. I know, kind of crazy, right? But that's how they feel. 2 to 3 years, mostly 2.5 years, is the best time, is a good time frame between the original and the sequel. But usually in movies, sometimes, depending on who's behind it, the sequel is always good, if not just as good, if not better than the original. And sometimes it's just on par with it. Yeah. You know, take a look at Age of Ultron this year. Everybody loved it. Everybody was okay with it. But the one thing they always said was, it's not on par, or it's just barely on par with the original. And when people say that it's just barely on par, but you got to see it because it is good, they're basically saying that nothing's going to beat the original because we've never seen something like that. Same with Worlds Unite. And now with the what really turned people off though, and now, excuse me, trying to get my thoughts together. And now what really turned people off though when this sequel was announced was the fact that not only were you going to have Sonic and Mega Man again teaming up, not only were you going to have characters from the previous crossovers crossing over with each other again, but now you were going to have finally the comic exclusive characters of Mega Man, the comic exclusive characters of Sonic, aka SatAM characters, as well. You were going to have the characters of the X spin-off, and a character or so from the Boom universe. And it's like, you think to yourself, okay, is that enough? That should be enough, right? Nope. Instead, you end up getting characters from Breath of Fire, Ghosts and Goblins, Golden Axe, Street Fighter, Beautiful Joe, Skies of Arcadia, Billy Hatcher. Who else? Alex Kidd. You know, Monster Hunter. You get all these other franchises coming in, and for what reason? What? Just to appear towards the later portion of the act? No. The reason this crossover was convoluted with so many characters instead of just the basic characters of both the Mega Man and Sonic comics, instead it was convoluted due to the fact that, as I talked about throughout this video already, and a lot of people have pointed out, this crossover, when one looks at it, when one gets down to it, is nothing more, or was nothing more, than a cash cow for both Archie Comics, Sega Corporation, and Capcom. And why? Because they may not show it on the outside. They may not show it publicly. But in truth and reality is this. Financially, behind the scenes, on the inside, financially, Sega, Capcom, and even Archie Comics are not doing as good as they would hope for. And they could sit back and deny that. They could say, oh, we're doing good, we're doing great, we're doing perfect. Well, you know, like I said in that one video, when I said, Capcom, do yourself a favor, file for bankruptcy, it might be a good thing. Heck, you got people like Alpha Omega Sin, 8-Bit Eric, and a lot of other people like Review Tech USA, all saying the same thing about Konami. They're saying go bankrupt. It might be the best thing for you because at least you'll still survive. File for bankruptcy and you might still have a chance to survive. You might still have a chance. Now some might say, well, they can't do that because they're not going to survive. They'll go out of business. Let me tell you something. When somebody files for bankruptcy, a company or somebody files for bankruptcy, it doesn't mean they're going to go out of business. Now I may not know the mathematics and all the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to how bankruptcy works or something like that. But I do know that bankruptcy is not always a bad thing. Especially if you're a multi-million-dollar or multi-thousand-dollar company like, let's say, Archie Comics, or a multi-million-dollar or formerly multi-million-dollar company like Capcom or Sega. It doesn't hurt because it might help you in the end. It might make you rethink your strategy and say, okay, maybe we can't go in this direction because that's going to hurt us financially. Maybe we should stick with going in this direction because that's been more of a financial success for us. And to me, that is something that all three, especially those that really need to consider it, need to start considering. I mean, take a look at what some of the things that Capcom and Sega and even Archie are doing to try to make a buck, to try to financially stay stable, to not let anything get exposed. You have Capcom doing Street Fighter V, right? Now that might be a financial success for them because as we speak, even though the game's not due out till next year, they are coming out and announcing, oh, this is what's going to be in it, that's what's going to be in it. The characters that might be DLC, they won't be DLC, but because you can even earn them, you can even unlock them and not have to worry about paying DLC, Capcom is doing that because they want people not only to get back on their side, not only do they want to get back on the consumer's good side, I should say, but they know that if they mention that kind of stuff about Street Fighter V, even though it might be a PS4 exclusive, things can still change. Capcom is hoping that's going to get enough people to wanting to buy the game on PS4, on PC, and maybe down the line on Xbox One and 360 and PS3. It's going to make them want to buy it because of everything they're announcing right now, because if they make the game look good, they know financially it's going to lead to money coming their way. And then you have Sega coming out apologizing for what they have done in the past, apologizing for alienating their fans and not listening to them, and all this and that. And suddenly you're starting to have maybe some semi-good Sonic games coming out, even if they're mobile or not. But you have Sega basically apologizing for what they're doing, for what they have done. You have rumors of another Sonic game, maybe multi-platform game, coming out. And all for why? Because Sega is trying to get back on the good side of the consumer, and they also know that financially, if they come out with some new games, not just Sonic, but any other games that they have a license to release on multi-platforms, that financially, getting back on the consumer's good side, the consumer will want to take another shot at playing their games. That is why Sega is coming out and doing that. They're not, maybe they mean it. I'm not saying they don't. But why in the world are they coming out and apologizing now when they should have done it a long time ago? And why is Capcom doing what they're doing with Street Fighter? Making all these announcements. And then you got Archie Comics. Archie Comics basically is licensing out the Archie characters to CW